So this is Vicki Gervicus of the Greater Gainesville Chamber, and I am delighted today to welcome to speak with us Malik Moore, who is running for, and let me make sure I have it right, the state representative for District 21.
Yeah.
And so we're happy to talk to Malik. We've got a few questions for him, and we're going to get to know him a little bit better today.
Well, hello and thank you for having me. It's always great to talk with the chamber and especially some people that I know having served on the public policy board with the chamber. But I'm Malik Moore, born and raised in East Gainesville in Sugar Hill. And it's the kind of neighborhood where if you see your neighbor struggling, you don't ask if it's your responsibility to help. You just jump in and serve. And that's been my life, service. After I got done at Santa Fe, went off to FSU and got my 2 degrees and my master's or my bachelor's and my master's. And during that time, worked my way up in the legislature from an intern to a chief of staff. So I know how to do this job. I know how to do it on day one, and excited to serve the community that poured so much into me and made me the person that I am. So excited to talk to you all today.
Terrific. All right, Malik. Well, let's jump in and do a few questions with you.
Okay.
The first one I have for you is what would be your top priorities and projects in the legislature if you are elected?
Absolutely. So when we first launched this campaign back in September, we sent out a survey to voters asking what their top 3 issues were. And the issues that kept coming back were affordability, criminal justice reform, and education. And thankfully, I've done some work in policy in those areas before, but specifically affordability, property insurance kept coming up. Floridians want to see some kind of relief to the continuing high skyrocketing property insurance rates. The legislature has passed a few iterations of legislation, but it's not tangible to people. What we've seen is that property insurance companies have taken our money from the state and saying that they were insolvent, and that was later not true. And they just took our money and left. We've seen where we've had people's policies being terminated right before a hurricane, leaving them without any coverage or any resources after it was over. We've seen, people being, especially our seniors in our communities, being taken advantage of by bad actors who were saying, "Oh, we'll give you a free roof, or we'll, do this work on your house," and they're tagging your insurance company, but you're not getting the relief that you need. And so, I think that there's some low-hanging fruit that is bipartisan in nature that could hold insurance companies accountable, but at the same time provide real relief to Floridians that need it. As far as criminal justice reform, when I was a chief of staff in the legislature, I visited 56 prisons doing oversight of our correctional system. And so, any legislation that we helped write or that helped pass and became law was written with the input of the community, those incarcerated, those formerly incarcerated, their families. And one of the biggest things that I want to work on, and I've worked on this with the DOC secretary before, is related to gang time, making sure that we are reducing our prison population, but at the same time, giving people the skills they need to re-enter society successfully. The thing I always tell people is that majority of the people in our prisons are going to come back to our neighborhoods. The question you have to ask yourself is, do you want someone who's learned to be a better criminal or someone who's ready to enter society? And so one of my biggest pet projects, I think, is a bill that I helped write that says that first-time nonviolent offenders, if you take and complete educational or self-betterment courses, can reduce your gang time from 85 to 65%. That would save the state $500 million over a 5-year period. It will drastically reduce our prison population and allow people to truthfully re-enter society with the skills they need, so recidivism, does not become a problem. I've also helped to work on a bill called Ava's Law. That's in honor of a child that died right here in Alachua County, in our Alachua County jail, that says that if a woman is to be sentenced, that a judge has the discretion to allow her to have her child and up to 12 months to bond with that child before beginning her sentence. To me, it's common sense things that balance public safety while also maintaining human dignity and decency in a system that's supposed to be rehabilitative, and making sure that that's actually the goal. And then lastly, with education, funding public education, making sure that our teachers are paid what they deserve, making sure that they have the resources resources they need to adequately teach our children, that no matter what zip code your child comes from, that they have access to a quality public education. We are seeing a lack of guidance counselors, for example. We are seeing crumbling infrastructure, and it's due to a lack of funding and just a lack of resources, and make sure that we protect that. So those are the top three that have constantly come back, and some of the things I want to work on.
Okay, terrific. Okay, and then it's a perfect segue, I think, to, and you did touch upon this in your opening, but it gives you a chance to talk a little bit more about it. What particular skills and experiences are you bringing to the office?
Absolutely. So I believe that I have a great balance of just community life experience and legislative experience. You know, I'm born and raised right here in this district, and I've been working in my community since I was a teenager. Unofficially, since I was 14, I got my first official political job at 17, working right here in this district. And I've lived the experiences of this district. I've seen, you know, people struggling. I've seen people needing a helping hand and been able to provide resources and try to bridge that gap. While at the same time working in the legislature as a chief of staff, where you are right there seeing how the sausage is made. You are helping write and pass policy. You are doing appropriations, and then at the same time, it is, you know, besides the legislative part of that job, it is a community job. You are the face of the office. You are working with the community. I've held the hands of mothers who've lost their children to gun violence, and that type of experience is something that makes you really ready on day one, because I think a lot of people don't realize all that this job entails. I think, you know, especially being at a part-time position, and I'm a Democrat. You're in a super minority. A lot of people have these expectations of what this job is going to be, and until you've actually served under someone and learned how this goes, you really don't know. And I think that my experience allows me to go in, you know, without a learning curve. Most new members spend their first term trying to figure out how the process works, who to go talk to get policy on the agenda. I don't have that problem. I've built those relationships, trained many people's legislative aides, growing through the system, and many of them are now members. So I come in with experience and relationships that make me ready to do the job.
Terrific. All right. The next question has to do with something that's gotten a lot of conversation, and it's going to get even more. And you can probably guess. What are your
Property tax.
thoughts on the property tax
Yeah.
amendment that's going to be on the ballot in the fall?
So I believe that Floridians need relief. And I know that that is important. And that's something I support. But I don't support it at the expense of local governments. And right now, with the elimination of property taxes, you're going to see local governments not be able to conduct the basic functions of governing. That means your firefighters are going to be impacted, your police, your libraries, your parks, your roads. And I don't think a lot of people realize that. I think that there are better ways to provide direct, tangible relief to Floridians, whether it be, you know, looking at our sales tax holidays. One of the things I worked on in the legislature was expanding our back to school sales tax, for example. There are things that we can do, lowering barriers to home entry through capping or lowering dock stamp taxes for first-time home buyers. There are things that we can do that are direct and tangible to everyday people, that they can feel the relief that they need, while at the same time we protect the integrity of local governments, allowing them to truly govern. And I've said also that if it does pass, then there needs to be real conversations on policy conversations. This is not going to be solved through just appropriations. This is not going to be solved by, you know, just simply trying to tell local governments, well, you know, tighten your belt a little bit and see what you can do. There's going to be real deficits and real problems, especially for our fiscally constrained counties and cities, some of which are in this district. And so I've said that the legislature will need to figure out how to backfill that. There needs to be some kind of legislation put in place if this does pass, so that the basic functions of local government can continue. If the voters decide to support this initiative, I just, because of the impacts it's going to have locally, I can't support it.
Okay, terrific. The next question I think is a logical segue, which is Florida moving in the right direction or moving in the wrong direction?
I think it depends on who you ask. I think that there has been progress made in different areas. I know just even back to 2021, for example, after the murder of George Floyd, being able to help pass a bipartisan criminal justice package. There are things that the legislature does that majority of which is bipartisan. However, I think we've also gotten tied up in the weeds on politics. A lot of things have become politicized. Just look at the search for U.S. president. We are going on what, almost a year now without stable leadership at the university, simply because politics has gotten in the way. And I think that that is the biggest problem. We have allowed politics to get in the way of service and of governing. We have prioritized culture wars and things that, at the end of the day, Floridians, Democrat, Republican, Independent, don't really care about. They want to know, are you going to go there and represent my needs and my interests? And it's easy for people to say, well, I'm going to fight for you. But the real question is, can you fight and can you win? And that's the conversation that we need to have policy wise. And we're not having those conversations. It has been tied up in, as I said, culture wars and just political, showmanship instead of actual service.
Okay, very good. And then the final question is one of those ones that everyone loves so much, which is, why should the local business community vote for you?
So I think that the local business should endorse me or vote for me because I understand. I've thankfully been able to work with the chamber on their public policy board and have those tough conversations about how policy intersects with the needs of business. I've done this job before. I don't come in new. I come in with a depth of experience legislatively, so that I can really hit the ground running. I'm from the community, so I know that while we need businesses to thrive, we also need our consumers and our everyday Floridians to thrive as well, so that the businesses can have someone to employ and also someone to partake in their services. It's a two-way street. But on top of that, the commitment I always make is that we may not always agree, but you'll at least have an open door policy. You'll have an eat my ear, and we can have a conversation. And I'll hear your needs and your concerns. And that's a commitment I make because at the end of the day, the question will always be, is this best for District 21? I always tell people that, as you do this job, you have to be able to look at your neighbor and justify your vote. If I take a vote, I need to make sure that if Miss Gainey, who lives down the street from me, comes and asks me about a vote, that I can give her a reason as to why I took the vote I did. If there's a vote on education, that Miss Tina, who is a big education advocate here in the community, that if she comes and talks to me, I have to be able to have those conversations. And it's the same with the business community. If someone in the business community comes and asks me why did I take a certain vote, then I have to be able to justify that and tell them why. But more than that, I would hope that they have also that they know they have a ear with me, and so that they can come before the vote happens, and we can have conversations as why I feel the way I do, why they feel the way they do, and come and meet some common ground. And that's my commitment with everybody, is that we will always work together. It would always be a team and community effort. I don't go here to represent Malik or to, push his agenda, but it's truly about serving this district that poured so much into me.
Terrific. Okay, well, now we've got a couple more minutes, and I'm going to turn the floor back to you. If there's anything else we didn't get to cover, any other issues that you wanted to bring up, the floor is yours right now.
Well, I'll just say this, I'm grateful for the opportunity to have this conversation. And I go back to that experience is going to matter. We are seeing a whole lot of things coming out of Tallahassee that some people agree with and some people don't. GRU is a big controversy in our, city, and there are people who feel strongly about it on both sides. And, those are the type of conversations that are happening every day in, Alachua County, even in Marion County, which this district also encompasses. And we're going to need somebody who is ready for that fight on day one. We need someone who can go in and hit the ground running, because people want relief, people want progress, they want change, and they can't wait for it. They're tired of waiting. And I believe that my candidacy allows them to get their needs met without them having to wait. And so I think experience is really going to matter moving forward.
Okay, terrific. All right, well, Malik, it's been a pleasure talking to you today, and I want to segue right off of what Malik said in terms of working together. The best thing we can do as a local community is get to know our candidates and make sure we're out there on primary day, whether you like to vote by mail, whether you like to vote early, or you want to show up on the 18th at the polls. please do make sure you make that voice heard and get out and vote this season. Thanks so much again, Malik. We'll see you out
Thank
on the
you.
campaign trail.
Absolutely.
Good luck.
Thank you.